So, which Laravel version we'll be using to build this blog application, considering Laravel 5.3 has been released? Well, when I was recording this course, I was still using Laravel version 5.2. I did not use version 5.3 because at the time it was still in development. It was in alpha version. But don't worry, you can use either version 5.2 or 5.3 to follow this course, because I think not much differences from both Laravel versions. On the next slide, I'll show you a few notes about some changes in the latest version of Laravel that you can use as a reference if you'll be using Laravel 5.3. But if you'll be using Laravel version 5.2, just skip this video. Okay, I'll explain some changes in Laravel version 5.3. Here I only explain some issues related to this course so that you can understand the differences and can follow this course. But if you want to know more detail about the changes, please check out the Laravel documentation or other resources on the internet. I'll start to explain from the route. In Laravel version 5.2, we can define all routes in a single file, routes.php, that located in app HTTP directory. So the routes for the web, API, or console are all placed here. But in Laravel 5.3, routes definition split it into 3 files stored in a special directory just below the Laravel root directory called routes. In this directory, there are 3 files called api.php. Here we can define some routes for API purpose. Then console.php. Here we can define some routes that can be accessed in console or command line application. And the web.php file is used to define some routes for web applications. So from this explanation, if you see I make a route in the routes.php file, then you can make it in routes web.php. The second change is directory structure. In Laravel version 5.2, below app directory, there are several subdirectories such as console, events, exceptions, HTTP, jobs, listeners, policies, providers, and one model user.php file. But in version 5.3, there are only console, exceptions, HTTP, providers, and a model user.php. Other directories accidentally removed because they are often not used. So if you need that, you should make it manually, or it will be created automatically when you create a file using artisan generator. For example, when you create a job using php artisan make job command, then jobs directory will be created. In addition, in Laravel 5.3, there are also 2 additional directories which not show up by default, but might show up if you use artisan command, mail directory to store mailable classes, and notifications directory to store notification classes. The third change is authentications controller. In Laravel 5.2, there are only 2 files below auth directory. The first is auth controller, which is used for login, logout, and registration, while password controller to handle if you forget the password and reset the password. But in Laravel 5.3, both are broken down again, so you'll find 4 files here. Login controller used for login or logout purpose, register controller used for registration, forgot password controller will be used if you forgot password, and reset password controller used for resetting password. And also note here, in Laravel 5.2, the logout route using HTTP method get or head, so we can use it with standard link. But in Laravel version 5.3, it's using post HTTP verb. So when you create logout link, you have to make it in form tag, something like this. Then, if you want to make custom name of REST resource route in Laravel 5.2, you simply define it like this, and it would be generate some routes like this. In Laravel version 5.3, you must add additional options in the third parameter like so. And lastly, if you want to make route model binding in Laravel 5.2, you can define it in route service provider like this, but in Laravel 5.3, you can follow something like this. And that's all I can explain about the changes in Laravel 5.3. As I mentioned before, here I'm just pointing out Laravel 5.3 changes which is related to this course. For more details, please check out Laravel documentation or other resources on the internet.